Hey Flosstube, my name's Christina, and I decided that I want to join the conversation that is Flosstube. I'm pretty nervous. I think I might eventually upload this video. I'm not sure. I didn't really have time to get anything together. My husband just took our 4 kids to his parents to spend the afternoon this Sunday, and well, I wanted the time alone, so I stayed home. And I thought, well, maybe now or never. I've not had an evening alone in a very, very long time. So I decided to start this video. I just ran and grabbed a bunch of random stuff to show you what I've been working on. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. And I guess here goes. Like I said, I have 4 children. Their ages are, my oldest is 11. My only boy is 9. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I don't get a whole lot of time for stitching, but it's something that actually helps to keep me sane. That's what all my crafting is for. It helps me to stay sane. And as any mom of little kids know, all the work you put into the day, most of it is undone by the end of the day, usually at least by lunchtime. And my crafting is the way that I say, hey, I've made progress on this today. And so unless I make a mistake and have to frog something out, it's, progress that stays on my fabric. I can see it. It's like, hey, I actually did do something today. My house is a wreck. My kids are dirty. I've got to cook supper again, wash dishes again. But hey, this is done. I have finished something. I'm actually a relatively new cross stitcher. I've only been cross stitching now for right at about a year. I love knitting. I've knitted for a pretty long time, and I was watching a knitting podcast, and a lady on there was actually showing some of her cross stitching, and it was cross stitching. I remember it was Brooks Books, the whole Wizard of Oz series, and she was putting it on a piece of fabric, and I was like, well, that's not what I thought cross stitching was. She was putting on this linen, maybe an even weave fabric, and I just thought, wow, that's gorgeous. I had only ever saw the little kits that are at Walmart, maybe Hobby Lobby, and I had only saw things stitched on Aida. And I personally am not a big fan of Aida. I actually do stitch stuff on Aida, but I don't like being able to see the holes in the Aida cloth, and I don't like how stiff it is. So when I saw her stitching on linen, and she was actually talking about the linen she was using, it really intrigued me, and the pattern was so beautiful, prettier than most things I had ever seen cross stitched before. So of course I got online and started Googling, and I found out about using linens and even weaves, and so I actually bought a class on Craftsy, and it was by Jeanette Douglas, and I like to over-research projects before I take them on, so I bought a Craftsy class. It was on sale. I didn't pay a whole lot for it, but she was showing how to get started cross-stitching, and she done the first sampler that she had us do was on Aida, and I learned lots of stuff. It was awesome. I was like, hey, I can do this. So I did her first sampler, and I actually gave it away to my aunt for her birthday just a few months ago. And then you could redo the sampler on linen and put a bunch of specialty stitches on. So I started to do the sampler in, I think it was 32 count linen, and I was like, after I had got like the first few words in, I was like, hey, I can do this. And I actually didn't want to redo the sampler, so I ripped it out and started another project on that fabric. I like big projects. I'm not sure why. I don't have a lot of stuff hanging on my walls, and I have plans of putting up cross-stitch pictures everywhere in my house. So it's going to take a while because I am picking bigger projects, and I don't have time, but they'll get done someday, I hope. I guess I'll start out by showing you my whips. And like I said, these are in no order. I really have a mess here next to me. You guys are sitting on, I'm using my laptop. You guys are sitting on my piano bench on top of a floss box. I'm trying to keep the glare off my glasses. I do have horrible lighting today. It's getting ready to rain outside. It's kind of yucky, so not very good light. But one of my first whips I was actually hoping to work on this weekend. It isn't very much at all. It is just a tiny little border here. I think this is 32 count. This is Weeks Dye Works fabric, and I think it's in I'm thinking Cocoa is the name of it. I'm not really sure. If somebody really wants to know, you can ask, and I'll put it in the comments or something down below. But I am doing the, there is a stitch along. It's Little House Needleworks, the Sheep Virtues, with all the different patterns. I think there are 12, right? 12 of these. The Little House, and then it's a Country Cottage Needleworks pattern. It's going to be in the middle, and it's called Sheep in the Meadow. And there's a Facebook group, and I will link it in the comments below if I can figure out how to do this. I'm not real tech savvy, so we'll see how that goes. But I do have it pulled up here on my iPad. I know it's going to give a little bit of a glare with all my overhead lighting and stuff, but if you see, they have a lady in the cross stitch group. I think it is Cross Stitch Express or something like that. I actually bought the patterns from her. She had one of her members made up a little chart of how to get all of the little sheep virtues arranged around this central motif with the Country Cottage Needleworks here. So that's the way I'm going to put it on the fabric. I love all things sheep. I also, like I said, I knit, and I also have a spinning wheel, and I like to spin my own yarn, so I'm massively into sheep. Me and my husband live in the country, and I hope someday when we're not so tired and maybe our kids are a little bigger to help, I would love to have just more than anything, not, I don't want to have a big sheep farm, but I wouldn't mind having a few. There are smaller breeds. I wouldn't mind having a few pet sheep. So anyway, that's my long-term goals for life, to sit around when my kids are a little bigger and grown, and I'll have sheep and yarn, cross-stitching galore. Those are my retirement goals for someday. So that's my first whip. Let me put that away. I was hoping this weekend that I could put in some more of the frame, but it's already Sunday evening, and I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So my next project, this is a modern folk embroidery pattern, and he is on, his name is Jacob. I can't remember his last name right now, but he is on, I'm not sure actually if he's on Etsy. I know that he has his own webpage, and I'll like I said, I'll link all these below. This is an electronic download I have. This is a Christmas pattern, and I think it's just Christmas Town Sampler, and it's going to, I've already started the Maria here, and it's going to say Christmas, and I really liked it because it reminded me of a little bit of having a, well, let me get this up here, of a Fair Isle pattern in knitting, and that's some of the favorite kind of knitting I like to do. I don't get as much done on knitting those kind of patterns as I like. They require a lot of concentration, and I usually have all my kids around. So, but here is the pattern in full. Let's see. There we go. That's pretty good. Merry Christmas, and it's just done on a linen. I cannot remember the name, but I'm doing it on 36. I think his model is stitched over 32, but I'm doing it on 36. I think 36 is my favorite fabric count to stitch on, just because it's big enough to where I don't have to use a magnifier, but then it's smaller. Kind of, I don't know, I think it makes my projects look a little, well, it just makes them, I guess, nice and neat in a small little package, as small as I can get them anyway. So I'm using, on this, I'm actually just using a DMC, the bright white, and I'm using a little bit of acrylic around where I think it'll look good at. I'm doing it around the border. I'm going to make all the little snowflakes. I'm going to put some acrylic in those. I think it's the blending filament that I'm using. It's the first time I've ever used it, and so far it's not going too badly. And I'm hoping soon to have just I want to get a few things out of the way, and I want to sit for a couple of weekends in a row and watch Christmas movies, get in a Christmas spirit, and work on some of my Christmas projects. Maybe I can have a few done before Christmas. So that's my let's see, what is that called? Yes, Christmas Town Sampler. That's it. And it's by Modern Folk Embroidery. He has a website at modernfolkembroidery.com. This is actually my first project that I started on. I think this is an even weave fabric. This is my very first project, and I like this project, but the main reason I did it was actually just to get some practice in, and it still isn't finished. I got some practice in and moved on to some things I wanted to stitch a little bit more. But this is called, let me look over here, Woodland Forest Cross Stitch Pattern, and this is by, let me think of her name. I think it's just Cross Stitch Patterns.com on Etsy. She's on Etsy. She's actually a Russian pattern designer. I'm showing you the back. Well, looky there. I thought, gosh, that doesn't look very good in this light. Okay, here we go. It's just got a bunch of little woodland creatures here. I've got a fox, a little bird up here. I don't know if you can see that. My pattern is my fabric's a little wrinkly here. So there's a fox. There's two little deer down here. With a little tree growing in between them. I'm starting a raccoon down here. I don't have his face in yet. A little butterfly. I think this is a fabric. I think it was called, I'm not sure, denim. Something denim I ordered from 123 Stitch, and I didn't write it down, so I'd have to actually go through maybe some emails. But here's the whole pattern. So I'm not really far. I've got to do I'd started in the middle, so I've still got a lot of the top to do, a lot of the bottom. But I thought it was really cute. I've made a few spacing mistakes on here that I'm not fixing. The tail on the fox here, I know I put it like maybe 2 spaces over, a little bit farther than I was supposed to from his body. So I'm just trying to fix that as I go along and make it up. Since they're all little motifs, I'm kind of making it work anyway. My next pattern that I'm working on is one of my bigger patterns, and it's one of my more favorite patterns. I actually saw this on one of the very first Flosstubes that I had watched. I cannot remember who it was now. There's several people doing it, and I'm not sure who the first person I saw was, but of course I ran to eBay and tried to find this vintage pattern, and it's called A Mid-Amish Life. And it was in, I think this was a Better Home and Gardens book, but it first appeared in a country cross stitch and older magazine. But here it is. This came out of a Better Homes and Gardens book where they had some of the blue ribbon winners, and the original picture was done as 3 separate cross stitch patterns, and then you would put them up together in 3 different frames. I'm actually working on them all as just one piece of fabric. And I'll get that out and show you. This is actually what I'm working on this weekend and what I've had on my frame. So I've still got it here in my Q-snap. And I've got quite a bit of the biggest pattern done, the one that's in the middle. And there's going to be, I'm going to start the other 2 on each side. So this is the middle of the pattern there. And I'm really, really liking this. I had put this up for a while because I was working on something else trying to get it done. And I just pulled it back out, I think last weekend. And I have been having a blast working on the house, filling in some things. So I still have a whole lot to go, but I'm really, really loving this. I'm hoping to get it done by Mother's Day. My mother saw me. She saw this pattern, and I told her I was, starting something new. I was starting to work on cross stitch. And honestly, she's never been interested in my crafting before. Even, like I make some sweaters, I do socks, I do all kinds of stuff knitting. I crochet, I tat, I spin. I love my crafting. And my mom's never really been that interested in it. I've never made anything for it. And she saw me working on that and said, "Oh my gosh, that's beautiful." And I said, "Well, do you want it?" And she's like, "Oh, no, you can't make that for me. That's too big. That's too much time, too much money. No, I don't want you to give that to me." And I was like, "No, I'm going to make it for you." And she said, "Okay." So I'm working on this. I hope by Mother's Day, maybe to have it finished. I told her it was going to be a while, not to expect it anytime soon. So I had planned to keep this for myself, but if my mom likes it, I would really like for her to have it and to put it up. So I go visit her all the time anyway. We live in the same town, so I'll get to see it. And I think this is actually my last, is this my last project? I think it is. Yes. I am working on, this is another modern folk embroidery pattern, and this is called, make sure I'm turning it the right way, this is called Agnus, and Agnus actually means the Lamb of God, and it's just got a lot of symbols of Christ on it. There is the Lamb of God is up here, and there's going to be this border that goes all the way around. This is supposed to be the sponge that wipes off Christ. There's a moon, sun. It says John over here, the beloved disciple. It's got some Christology symbols. IHS for Jesus. Here in the corner, it's got, I really love this filigree pattern. And here, I'm actually filling in this pattern here along the border. I'm going back and filling it all in with black. But yeah, this pattern is actually called Agnus Dei, and let's see if it'll bring it up. Here is a picture of what it's going to look like when it's done. Now, he had the original sample. He had it on just white threads on a black fabric, and I think it's beautiful like that. I think it almost looks lacy, but I wanted to try to do something a little different with more color. So I went and picked a few colors that I thought would make this look good. I used some, I'm not sure of any of the color numbers. I can maybe put that up if somebody asks, but I've tried to use gold. I've used bright white in here, and it's on kind of a natural colored linen. I think this might be flax. Flax is my favorite kind of linen to use, so that's probably what it is. And then I've used like a silvery gray almost. I've still not decided exactly how I'm going to end up finishing the whole piece. I'm just working on colors as I get to them. But in the middle, I know that it's got the Lamb of God here in the center. Let me put that where you can see it. I think I'm actually going to fill all that in with black too, the way I'm doing the border around, so that the Lamb of God in white will stand out. I actually had got this one recently, and I had been working on it. I actually think I started working on this at Lent, but I had also gotten sick in the middle and hadn't done as much as I had hoped to. But I was actually working on this and planning to get it done and give it to my church. But it's taken me a lot longer than I had planned. I always have big, huge plans that don't really come to fruition. I think this is a 9-page pattern. Some of them aren't full pages, though. And I'm almost finished with page 2. So, but the reason I was trying to finish it, I am a Lutheran. I go to a Lutheran church. And if you know anything about history, in 1517 is when Martin Luther posted his 95 Theses on the church door at Wittenberg. So this year, 2017, the Lutheran Church is celebrating its 500th anniversary. So most Lutheran churches that I know of, anywhere around my area, we're having big parties, big raucous events to celebrate, because we always celebrate Reformation Day, but this year it's going to be big. And I was hoping to have this done and give it to my church when it was finished, but it's taking a lot longer than I thought. And honestly, if I don't get it done in time for our Reformation Day celebration, I honestly told my husband I might keep it because I just really like it. But I haven't decided yet, so we'll see. But I really like working on this piece. There's not a lot of colors, so I can sit down with just a few colors. And if I'm really tired and not feeling good, I actually just go and fill in all this little black border, because I don't have to look at a chart. I don't have to think about colors or anything. I just get the black and go all along here. And so that's a really fun pattern. And I actually really like the patterns at modernfolkembroidery.com. He has some of the most beautiful patterns. I just really, really love them. I think right now that's about all I have to show my works in progress. I'm working on the Agnus Dei pattern and the Amid Amish Life pattern the most right now. I try not to have too many whips going at one time. It makes me feel just a little crazy. So I think mostly I'm working on those two. If I get really bored of them, I'll grab something else out. I haven't worked on a lot of the patterns I showed, even though they're my active whips, but I haven't worked on them very much throughout the whole summer. And mainly because I really thought I could finish the Agnus Day pattern in time for October, and it's not happening. It's just probably really not going to happen, and I got really sick of just stitching on it week after week, and so I put it aside, working on other things. I have a lot of patterns in my stash that I want to get to and start kitting up. I have a lot of things I want to buy and start kitting up, but I actually don't buy patterns until I'm ready to actually kit them up and start stitching them. Unless it's something like somebody shows in a video in a magazine or something, and I'll think, oh, I need that. And if it's an older magazine, I go to eBay and find it. But for most of the patterns, I think, they'll be there when I get ready to stitch them. If a pattern's discontinued, well, there are a million other patterns that I want to get. And I don't like to sink too much money into, well, any of my crafts really until I get ready to do something, because by the time I get ready to do a certain pattern, I may think, well, there's something ahead of that I want to do now. So I don't want to sink a whole big bunch of money into stashing when I would, just stashing patterns, when I'd actually like to be kitting up stuff and getting started on a few more things. Like I said, I'm a newish cross stitcher. I have actually never done any back stitching. So I'm hoping in this next week I'm going to start back stitching my Amid Amish life. There's not a whole lot of back stitching, but a little bit. So I've been kind of nervous to start, but I was going to try to back stitch a little bit as I went, just because there is quite a bit. I mean, it's a pretty big picture. I'm not actually sure of the count of it, but I'm hoping that maybe I won't mess it up too badly, because I like the way it's going so far. I've been telling my husband forever that I was going to do a Flosstube video. He's like, oh, that would be great, you should do it. But then he never thought I would do it. And so here I am today on a Sunday afternoon. We were up all night with my littlest kids. Just little sicknesses of this and that, allergies, and waking up just not being able to sleep. So I think I finally went to bed at about 2 or 3 o'clock this morning. And we didn't make it to church. I have on no makeup. I haven't fixed my hair. I can't believe this is the day I decided to actually do my cross stitching. My house is in a mess. I cleaned up my little corner here a little bit. This is where I stitch in my house. So I cleaned up my corner a little. This is my stitchy chair. Nobody's supposed to sit here but me, but I'm all the time having to move my stitching stuff completely somewhere else because the kid's here and I can't make them move. I'm too nice. So this is my stitching spot. I guess I like to stitch in my Q-snaps. I would like to buy some scroll frames soon, but I started with Q-snaps and I have them, so I'm going to keep using them. Maybe after Christmas, I'd like to buy a few scroll frames. I use a Lowry stand that I got actually last Christmas. When I started cross stitching, I didn't want to have to buy a bunch of special tools, and I was going to stitch in hand. I wasn't going to buy the Q-snaps. I was, going to do it simple, like keep it simple, because I have so much other crafting junk. I think I have a whole hall closet full of yarns and wool fleeces. So when I started this, I was like, I'm not going to go out and buy all kinds of crazy equipment, because I actually do like the accessories that go along with my crafting. But I found that stitching in a hoop really killed my hand. So next thing I know, I'm buying a Q-snap, and then the Q-snap was still kind of a little hard to hang on to. So I was like, I think I need a stand. So then I have a stand. I'm really trying not to buy too much. I have a few needle minders. I actually have a lot of pendants and old brooches that I'm hoping to make into needle minders, but I've been saying that now for about 6 or 7 months and I haven't done it. Maybe making a Flosstube video saying that I'm going to do it. Maybe that'll get me motivated to have something to show you guys. Yeah, I definitely won't be showing a lot of stitching stuff that I bought, because like I said, I try not to overstash. When I get really tired of some of my projects, I like to make lists of what I plan to do next, and my lists are always changing. I change the order, I change different patterns that I've just learned about that I want to put on there. Sometimes I just completely decide, I've seen that pattern too much, maybe on Facebook or Flosstube. I'm not that interested anymore, and I'll put it to the bottom. I use it, I'm on Ravelry a lot, which is a knitting group, and they have a queue, and I also do that with my knitting. I change things around in my queue, so I've made me a queue on paper of the pattern, so when I get antsy thinking, oh, I really want to do something else, I need to kit something else up and get started, I just play around with my queue, so it's only in my head, but that's how I keep myself from getting the buy everything bug. I think that's all I'm going to do for today. Hopefully I can figure out how to maybe edit this a little bit. I don't know if this will get edited, but I do hope it gets put up on YouTube. I'm a little bit nervous about putting it up. And hopefully maybe next time, maybe in a few weeks, I'll have a little bit more progress done on my projects. Maybe I'll do some of the Flosstube tags so you guys can get to know me a little better. But I'm going to keep this one short and sweet because honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. So hopefully you all will see this. If you want to find my Instagram, I know I follow a lot of Flosstubers on Instagram. And if you want to find me and follow me back, my YouTube channel here is Christina Lou Who, and on Instagram, I'm Christina Lou Who D. Somebody already had Christina Lou Who, so I had to add the D to the end of it. But if you want to go over there and follow me, that'd be awesome. I actually need to start really putting up some more pictures. It really encourages me to just see my progress on my pictures. So if you want to hit like, if you want to subscribe, that would be awesome. I pray at least a few people watch this, so I'm not talking to myself, but I've had fun. I hope this kind of maybe keeps me accountable, keeps me working towards a little more progress in all of my whips, and I'm really excited to join the conversation with you all. It seems like, I mean, everybody's talking to themselves, but then we get involved in conversations on Facebook and in the YouTube comments, so I just wanted to put myself out there and say, hey, I'm here. I watch everybody too. I'm not going to do any shout outs today because I'm actually almost embarrassed at how many Flosstubes that I watch. I watch Flosstubes when I'm doing chores like laundry, and I do it at night when I stay up and stitch. Sometimes I actually get my girls to bed. I put them in my bed and we'll watch Flosstube. They think it's fun, but it's not interesting like a cartoon or something that they actually like so much, so they'll watch and not realize how they're getting sleepy, and they'll fall asleep easy. So we actually go to bed to Flosstube very often. So anyway, I think I'm going to end it now. I'm babbling because I'm pretty nervous, and I know I've talked fast. I talk very fast when I'm nervous. So anyway, bye Flosstube. Hopefully in a few more weeks I'll come back with another video. Thanks for watching.